President Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa has approved the employment of 1,495 SANDF soldiers as part of the SADC standby force to support Mozambique's efforts in their fight against terrorism in the northern Cabo Delgado province. The deployment of these SANDF members is expected to cost South Africa more than 983 million rand, according to the president. Well, to help us unpack this further is analyst Jasmine Opperman. Jasmine, good afternoon. Welcome to the Midday View. It's a big amount of money. I mean, 984,368,057. It's a lot of money, just under R1 billion. Is that hefty bill to be expected in such an operation?
It has to be expected. If we are looking at war and putting one soldier on the battlefield, we must remember we're talking supply lines, medical support, logistical supplies, and per soldier you're looking at easily over $100,000 just to get the soldier there in Cabo Delgado ready to engage. So it is a huge and a massive amount. It leads to the question, where are we going to get it from? And that question remains unanswered.
Yeah, I saw the letter that the president tabled the National Assembly, the letter dated the 23rd of July. It was a letter from the president to the Speaker of the National Assembly, Thandi Modise. It doesn't go into those kind of details, except, of course, to say it's part of the SADC standby force, and that this is from the 15th of July. The deployment will be from the 15th of July, which was last week, until the 15th of October. So you're talking about 3 months. August, September, October. For 3 months, could we expect, because this is an estimate, that this bill might go higher?
It will definitely escalate. The reason I'm saying it, to make a difference in Cabo Delgado, 3 months will not even be close enough. We are looking at least, and I'm being conservative here, 2 to 3 year presence to create the stability, to enable development, to enable humanitarian support. 3 months deployment will only favor the insurgents, will benefit their propaganda voice via the Islamic State, and it will be simply exposing our soldiers unnecessarily to a rushed engagement on the battlefield.
Yeah, the president describes what's going on there in Cabo Delgado as terrorism and violent extremism. I saw a report from Maputo yesterday about the other countries that are part of the standby force, like Angola. From the list of what that media report was saying, South Africa is top of that in terms of this amount of money. Then it's followed by Angola, and then the others. But the Rwandans are also on the ground before the SADC force arrived. So when these kinds of deployment and support that is required, that is described as necessary to fight terrorism and violent extremism come out, one asks as well, or is it fair to ask, let me say, what's in it for South Africa besides peace and security and stability? Because there are lots of question marks about why is Rwanda there?
That is a good question. If you don't mind, if we can start there, Rwanda is the deployment by Rwanda, and they are fully operational, being paid by the French government. So the sponsorship coming from France, and that explains the visits preceding it. And Rwanda currently actively engaged in operations, claiming their victories, and we can clearly see a Rwanda trying to show and trying to achieve as much as possible before SADC deployments. So the whole issue of political influence and power politics at play.
But also, before you talk about South Africa, sorry to come in there, we know there's a big gas project under the tutelage of Total, which is a French conglomerate, and it will serve the French to fund the Rwandans' presence. But now, coming to South Africa?
South Africa, okay, first and foremost, via the SADC structures, agreements being reached. But what is it in for South Africa? And here we will have to go back to the gas projects. Should they take off, there could be enormous economic development. But there are more important issues. We cannot, as a region, sit still and see this humanitarian mayhem taking place and not doing anything. There is a responsibility towards South Africa. 3, the whole issue of should the insurgency be, or the insurgents, and let's hope it happens, be defeated, they will seek escape. The nature of the insurgency is about to change. If ever they're going to expand beyond Cabo Delgado, and I'm not saying there will be attacks in South Africa, but these insurgents could find safe havens in South Africa. Mpumalanga immediately comes to mind. Lastly, the Islamic State has taken note. Please, they are not taking lead in this insurgency. They would like to play that propaganda card. But the fact of the matter is we've got an international terror organization that wants to show they can expand even in the region. We cannot allow that to happen. We already have enough domestic problems at play to have this voice being present.
So should this military effort, of which South Africa is now firmly a part of, with the first part of the bill, if it goes on, sitting at over 980 million rand, according to the President's letter to Parliament the other day, should it be complemented or supplemented or accompanied with efforts for dialogue? Because the problems of Cabo Delgado are deeper than just Islamic terrorist type thing. They come back since independence in 1975.
I agree 100%. But what I want to add, we know that we need to address serious issues in Cabo Delgado, the deep layers. And yes, dialogue is one option. But you need to create the environment for a dialogue table. At this point, the insurgents is having the momentum. And the moment you have that, it's highly unlikely that they will sit around the negotiation table. Point number 2, and I'm glad you're raising this issue. We can go in military. We can create the stability. But the Maputo government has to step up, step in, and realize the moment the opportunity for governance is created, the moment the opportunity to show that they are serious about Cabo Delgado in its totality, and not only our Fungi and the LNG sites, and winning the hearts and minds of people will be crucial to the success of this whole exercise. If that does not happen, we have an endless war in Cabo Delgado. Okay,
a final question for you, Jasmine, and if you may answer it briefly. 984 million rand that's been laid out by the SANDF to be part of the SADC standby force, and South Africa, as I said, is leading the table of the countries who are there money-wise. Angola is second, according to reports I saw from Maputo yesterday. How would Matamela Cyril Ramaphosa, as the president, as the commander-in-chief, measure the success of this thing? I mean, the return for investment surely it has to be high. Or is it possible that they're going to achieve that return of such a huge investment in peace?
I think at the end of the day, the president and also cabinet has a responsibility towards our citizens. If body bags should start coming back to home soil, God forbid it happens, more accountability will be demanded. And there is no way that we can spend so much money and there is no transparency and feedback to the people. We must remember Project Prosper, the deployment with COVID, and now following the lootings, there is no money left in that budget. So where we're going to get that money, how it's going to be spent, and the outcome, not only measured against how many killed and battlefield successes, but creating stability will have to be a SADC responsibility towards the region.
Thank you very much, Jasmine Opperman, for your insights, as usual. Of course, that's on the back of that deployment of the SADC standby force, of which South Africa is a component of and leading it. I think the commander of the standby force is from the SANDF, from the reports that have come through from Mozambique since they landed there. And the president responding or advising Thandi Modise, the Speaker of Parliament, on the 23rd of July, just the other day, about the deployment, that he's authorized the employment of 1,495 members of the South African National Defence Force to be part of the SADC mission for the next 3 months until the 15th of October. I'm just reading here. The expenditure expected to be incurred, okay? The expenditure expected to be incurred, so that's an estimate, 984,368,057 rand. That's just under R1 billion, and I don't know if it will continue beyond October. So we have to ask questions. We need that transparency. If you invest so much money, and for sake of peace, we must tell us, as South African citizens who are tax-paying citizens, where this money going to come from. You've already been spending a lot on the Defence Force here in the country already. We're going to carry on following that story for us as we ask the Defence Force to account to how that money, where that money is coming from.